me much more fascinated and interested, because this is very much the material of the historian of 19th and 20th century Europe, namely the definition of the state, the boundaries of a state, the nation of a state, and so on. And I know you're an admirer of Renan, because Ernest Renan, who wrote a very famous lecture back in 1882, Qu'est-ce que c'est une nation? What is a nation? Which, you know, there's a whole literature about that. And one of the things that Renan says, a celebrated aphorism, he more or less says that the people who make up the nation remember, and if they don't remember, they make it up, or, you know, forget the exact words. And this is part of creating a nation. He then also adds, much to the annoyance of historians, because history is a threat to nationalism, because one of the tasks of the historians, he wrote in 1882, which is not bad, one of the tasks of historians is precisely that of dismantling some of the mythologies of nationalism. And since this meeting apparently is in memory of Eric Hobsbawm, yes? And Eric Hobsbawm was my teacher. I did my PhD under his supervision. One of the very things he insisted and he taught is that the one thing historians must do is to remember what people have either made up or have forgotten. This is the central task. And I think, Shlomo, whatever people might say about this or that part of the book, I mean, this is your central job. And even though you're never trained as a historian, were you?
As a historian, yes, but not as a historian of Judaism or Zionism.
No, of course, of France.
No, but France, yeah.
Yes. I don't want to speak at length because I want you to tell people about your central thesis. But one thing I want to say is that from a comparative point of view, because I'm a comparative historian, I like to look at A and then look at B and X and look at Y and compare and contrast. I mean, this is a sort of thing I like doing. And reading this book, I thought Jews, Zionist, nationalist, but also, frankly, even Jews in general, like to emphasize their exceptionalism. We are special. Not because we're necessarily the chosen people, although this adds to the exceptionalism, because God can only choose one, and, you know, it had to be us. The old Jewish joke, couldn't you choose somebody else, you know? But everybody, every nation which constructs itself also preaches exceptionalism. The Germans have a Sonderweg, the Americans have American exceptionalism, l'exception française, the particularities of this, peculiarities of that. It's a sort of ongoing saga in which everyone insists that they're special. And one of the things that make them special is the unchanging nature of the past. Everybody else changes, everybody evolves, there is history all around us, except for us, whoever we are, Italians, Hungarians, Americans, and so on. We have an essence which never changes. And the point of politics is to find what our essence is and then make it realized. And I was very amused by the discussion on the boundaries of the land of Israel, because, as you point out, strictly speaking, the actual, you know, a unified state of Israel actually, if it existed for about a century. Otherwise, there is no particular story. And since I've done that kind of exercise for other European countries, it's very, very rare to have a state with national boundaries, with the same national boundaries stretching back for a very long time. I mean, they keep on changing, and every time they change, somehow the nation does not change. Had it not been, for example, for a little pact between the state of Piedmont and the French state, Nice would have been Italian, and instead of the bouillabaisse, they would have had zuppa di pesce, and they would have been patriotic Italian, just like the people who are a little bit on the other side of the border and are actually technically Italian feel like that. And one can multiply this. So in terms of demystifying the mythos, as you say, I think you've done an excellent job.